Hello everybody, this is SaberX coming to you live with another video review for the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians Series by Creative Beast Studio and David Silva. And today we are going to be looking at the 1/18th scale Chasmosaurus belli. So here we are, there it is, and before we take a look at this figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging for it. So let's just move him back a little and get right into it. So here we have the Chasmosaurus belli packaging, and here, yeah, it's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful piece of art done by Shannon Beaumont. As I've said before, and I will say again, multiple artists contributed to the package artwork for the Beasts of the Mesozoic toy line for the Ceratopsians. And inside the package, you can see this beautiful cardboard diorama backdrop, which you can place behind the figure for added effect. And yeah, if you want to display them that way, that's absolutely awesome. I personally don't, but if you want to, that will work absolutely perfectly, because these cardboard backdrops do stand up on their own. They are built to do so. Now, flipping it over on the back, you get this nice little view of the information regarding Chasmosaurus, as well as a look at the list of Ceratopsian figures for Wave 1 of the toy line. So, voila. Yeah, absolutely beautiful work. And inside the packaging, you get this nice little card featuring Shannon Beaumont's work. And on the back, a little view of the action figure with the information, and on the back. Yeah. And of course, as with all the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians, you also get this set of instructions. And these are very, very important to read, because you need hot water or a hairdryer to heat up the tail on all of these Ceratopsian figures in order to successfully pop them into the dumbbell joint at the base of the tail where it joins the hips. If you don't do this, you will end up getting frustrated and potentially break the dumbbell joint on the figure. And if you don't want that to happen, I highly recommend paying attention to that. So, there we have that. Now let's move on to the figure itself. So here we have the magnificent Chasmosaurus belli, and I just have to say, it is one of my favorites. The color scheme for this is based on an actual frog. All the previous figures that I had reviewed for this toy line, their color schemes were based on lizards, but this one is based on an actual frog. It is one of 3 Ceratopsians in the toy line that has a frog-based color scheme. The other 2 are Regaliceratops and Pentaceratops. And in the case of Chasmosaurus, the frog that was used as the color reference was a beautiful jungle frog called the green mantella frog. It's an absolutely magnificent creature. If you get the chance and look that frog up, it is absolutely stunning. Just as beautiful as poison dart frogs, and yeah, some of the more ornate frogs. Just absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, so this figure is absolutely stunning. I mean, look at that. I mean, if you can see very closely, that eye is just intense. I mean, with the black sclera and the green iris, just absolutely fantastic. And the stark contrast between the color scheme, where It starts off as this black that goes into the brown on the torso and into the white of the underbelly. It's just phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. And I love the color scheme for this. Now, I did find something interesting about this particular figure. Just mine. Yeah, just mine that I got. When I was taking this figure out of the box, I noticed that the ankles had been put on backwards on my figure. So the paint scheme, which is supposed to be on the front for the ankles, is actually on the back. So someone made a little boo-boo, but it's not a boo-boo I mind at all, because frankly, I think it gives the figure a little more character, because, yeah, some individual dinosaurs, they look very different compared to others of their own kind, and Ceratopsians would have been no different. So individual variation. That's how I like to think of that. But yeah, I love this color scheme. I mean, look at that, all the way down the back onto the tail. Just fantastic. And if you look at the front, oh wow. Oh, yeah. I just love how stark and vibrant and just about intimidating this color scheme is from the front. I mean, just wow. Love it! Yeah. So, in regards to articulation, moving on to that, this figure has 19 points of articulation, as with the smaller versions of the 1/18th scale Ceratopsians. And yeah, he is just super, super posable. I mean, and you can see how far his neck bends down, like so. And you can also move his neck up about this much, so he can actually look up pretty far. So yeah, he can move his neck up and down, like so, and yeah, that's about the limit of his downward motion, so you can actually make it look like he's eating low-growing plants or about to charge. And yeah, he also can move his neck side to side, like this. He can move it about that much in either direction. Yeah, maybe a little more. But I wouldn't really push it too much. Now, with all the smaller versions, he does not have opposable tongue, but he does have this phenomenal jaw that opens. And his jaw opens about this much. So, yeah, you can open it a little wider, but it exposes the gaps where the cheeks are on the figure. So I kind of like to keep it a little lower. I'd like to keep the gape a little less than that when I open his mouth. But yeah, he absolutely looks phenomenal in that regard with the open mouth. And that beak comes together really, really nicely and really, really tight. Just fantastic in regards to that articulation for the mouth. Now, his legs, they can do a full 360 at the shoulder, though I do not recommend it. Yeah, because of the clearance issues with this shoulder piece right here. He can also splay his arms out about this much and inward about that much. He can also, of course, pivot his arms. All the Ceratopsians can do this, by the way. He bends about this much, almost a 90-degree angle at the elbow. Bends it out like this, and you can straighten it about that much. So you can have him do some pretty good posing with that. His wrist swivels about this much, this way and that way, and it does have some tilt to it. Now, all the legs for these figures do have this, so you can do some great posing with them. Yeah, like so. Yeah. The hind legs can also bend about this far back at the knee. They can move forward like this at the knee as well. The hip can also, though I do not recommend it because of how tight the joints are, they can do a full 360 at the hip, and they can swivel in and outward just a little bit for better standing positions. The ankle also can move back about this much, so almost a full straight bend. He can bend his leg forward about this much. The feet also have this, they have mainly a tilting motion to them, but they also can bend forward and back a little bit. The torso does not have as much movement as in some of the other beasts of the Mesozoic figures for the Ceratopsian line, just because of the hips here. They actually block that quite a bit. But you can move him about this far left and about this far right, like so. And of course, the tail, the tail absolutely can move at the base. You can move it up, like so. You can move it down, right, left. And the articulation for the legs is the same on the other side as well. So you get some really, really nice poses out of this figure. And I absolutely love Chasmosaurus. It is one of the coolest Ceratopsians in the line for these figures. Just a fantastic, fantastic creature. And I am really glad that they brought this in. Now, there are actually several species of Chasmosaurus. Chasmosaurus belli is just one of these. There are others. And several Ceratopsian genera have actually been assigned to it in the past. For example, Mojoceratops was once thought to be a long brow-horned variant of Chasmosaurus, but that is no longer the case. Some people still classify it as a species of Chasmosaurus, but that's actually not entirely true. And there is another species called Vegaceratops, which was also once classified as a species of Chasmosaurus. It is a very close relative. But the two legitimate species right now are Chasmosaurus belli, which is the one you see here, and actually three. I'm sorry. The three confirmed species for Chasmosaurus are Chasmosaurus belli, which you see here, Chasmosaurus russellii, which has larger brow horns, which are about as long as the nose horn, and then Chasmosaurus irviniensis, which may or may not be assignable to Vegaceratops. But then again, and it's kind of hard to classify with similar-looking Ceratopsians. Now, unlike the other Ceratopsians in the toy line that I've shown you thus far, Chasmosaurus belongs to a different branch of Ceratopsians than things like Styracosaurus and Medusaceratops and Diabloceratops. This is actually a Chasmosaurine basically, this is the animal that gives its name to that entire subfamily of Ceratopsians. They are the long-frilled, long-horned Ceratopsians, and they generally, on average, have shorter tails than the Centrosaurines do. They did coexist for millions of years when they were together, and for whatever reason, it seems like the Chasmosaurines were more successful overall. Chasmosaurus itself lived alongside various species of Centrosaurus when it was alive, and it is found primarily in the Dinosaur Park Formation. Now, there aren't that many bone beds for Chasmosaurus, so it probably did not live in large herds. It might have lived in small groups, But there is evidence that Chasmosaurus did in fact care for its young. They do have a good specimen that is nearly complete. It's only missing the front legs of a baby Chasmosaurus, and the proportions for its limbs, or at least the hind legs, which is what they have for the limbs for it, indicates that Chasmosaurus probably was fairly slow moving, and the proportions in its legs did not change as it grew up, because the young did not have to run in order to keep up with the parents. So it's not the fastest of the Centrosaurine. It is not the fastest of the Ceratopsians, and frankly, it would have probably invested more time into defending itself than actually running from potential predators like Daspletosaurus and Gorgosaurus, which it also lived alongside. Yeah. But absolutely, it's one of the most fascinating of the Ceratopsians from the late Cretaceous, about 75 million years ago. And yeah, it is without a doubt one of my favorites. It's definitely in my top 12 in regards to favorite Ceratopsian species. Just absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, I really enjoy this figure. Now, when I was pre-ordering this particular figure on the backer kit page for the campaign, the figure itself was about $48. So it is actually one of the less expensive of the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian figures. But now that it is for sale on the CreativeBeast.com website, it's about $50, which is comparable in price to the Raptors at present. So, yeah, if you want this figure, I would definitely say pick it up as soon as possible. It is phenomenal, and the detail on this thing, from the scales to the color pattern to the fantastic accuracy, it's to die for. Yeah, don't miss out on this. This is a dinosaur figure you do not want to pass up on. I know I didn't, and I do not regret getting this guy at all. So this is SaberRex signing out, saying you're never too old to play with toys. Don't be afraid to be a toy nerd. Be proud of it. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.